Hi, I'm Hazel and welcome to the final boss of Legion. This video is all about the Argus the Unmaker fight in Antorus on normal and heroic difficulty. As fits the last fight of the expansion, Argus is a pretty long encounter with 4 distinct phases and a lengthy list of abilities. We'll be in phase 1 until 70% health. This phase has everything to do with managing your floor space by not completely covering it with the spooky death fog. Sweeping Scythe is our first tank mechanic, and this one is a frontal cone stacker. One tank faces Argus away from the raid, and the tank swap is on 3 stacks. Tortured Rage is unavoidable raid damage for the healers to be aware of. He looks like he's doing something cooler than that, but he's really not. Cone of Death is very self-explanatory. Argus is going to face a random player, charge up for a second, and then lay down a cone-shaped pizza slice of death fog. Set up the raid in a melee and a range stack, with the range directly behind the melee. As soon as he starts charging up, the whole raid shifts to one side and stays near the edge of the cone. The idea is just to turn the arena into a pie chart without leaving any gaps. Soul Blight Orb is this planet-looking thing. That'll stay up for a little while and put out Soul Blight debuffs onto random players. I don't see why there needed to be an orb, but this fight's just big on orbs. When the debuff expires, the target poops out a little fog puddle. If you get Soul Blight, run to the back of the room and stand next to the existing fog pie. That should put your fog out of the way and in a place where it gets covered up by the Cone of Death anyways. Gul'dan's aid is more orbs. Gul'dan will buff a random player with Gift of the Sky and another with Gift of the Sea. After 10 seconds, a corresponding buff orb will drop on their locations. Touching the Sky Orb gives you a crit mastery buff, while touching the Sea Orb gives you haste verse. Those buffs last 1 minute on normal and 30 seconds on heroic, they stack, and they are mutually exclusive, so you gotta pick one. The players who get targeted with the orb are responsible for putting the orbs in a place where everyone can get to them, preferably somewhere between melee and ranged. In the fog is not a good place. Make sure that you know ahead of time which buff you want, know what that orb looks like, and then go poke it whenever it's up. The Sky Orb is darker with lightning, while the Sea Orb has the bubbles. At 70%, all the fog goes away and we enter phase 2. While the first phase was mostly concerned with raid positioning, phase 2 relies more on individual positioning and responsibility. Soul Burst is a debuff that will go out onto 2 random players, do damage over time, and then explode for raid damage after 15 seconds. That raid damage is reduced with distance. Mark 2 Soul Burst locations away from both the raid and each other, and then if you get the debuff, just run to one of those 2 spots. Edge of Obliteration spawns a big dark scythe that does a line-shaped attack with knockback. It's very reminiscent of Harboron from Maw of Souls. This is extremely telegraphed and therefore pretty embarrassing if you get hit. Avatar of Grimore is our Titan aid this phase, and it's a buff that goes out onto a tank. They get a minute of extra health, movement speed, and a little bubble that redirects the damage taken by nearby players to that tank. Basically, you can stack on a dude to take their damage. You're gonna need that to manage the next mechanic. Soul Bomb is kinda like Soul Burst, but just way uglier. It's a bigger dot, and after 15 seconds the explosion does 7.1 million damage on normal. That will kill an average Joe. Like Soul Burst, it also does that same damage to the entire raid, reduced with distance. The Soul Bomb player will need their own designated marker to go stand on far from the raid, and the Avatar buff tank needs to go stack on them and maybe pop a cooldown to save their life. The non-Avatar tank needs to take the boss so that Argus doesn't go on a big field trip. Of course, if you get Soul Bomb and you have an immunity like an Ice Block or Divine Shield, feel free to use that and give your tank a very tiny vacation. At 40%, Argus sits down to think about what he's done, and we get to fight some sparkly dudes for a bit. There are 7 adds, and they spawn in a ring. Discs of Norgnon is our Titan aid this phase, and it reveals a 200% weakness to a specific damage type in each add. Those will always be in the same positions, so figure out which one you can wreck and then focus on that one first. Look at the infographic. Learn the infographic. Live the infographic. Cosmic Ray will target a random player and fire a damage beam at them after about 5 seconds. Try not to shoot that through a huge clump of people, but more importantly, don't wiggle too much. Your friends can move around you. Cosmic Beacon has a kickable cast, and if it goes off, it'll cause nasty stacking raid damage. This is a top priority for kicks. Range, try to be aware of where melee aren't so that you can cover any gaps. Star Blast is also kickable, but it's just damage, it's not that bad, and they absolutely spam it, so don't kick this. Save your interrupts for Cosmic Beacon. Stellar Armory causes 2 lucky Sparkle Bros to get visual weapons and become tankable. Their name does not change at all, so you need to actually look at them and see who's got the big stabbers now. Each weapon set needs to be handled differently. Swords of the Cosmos looks like this. The dude with that thing needs to be tanked at least 20 yards away from all the other dudes, or else he's going to buff them for 20% damage. The other tank picks up the ad with Blades of the Eternal, aka daggers. That one doesn't do much, so pull it on top of another ad so that people can cleave. On Heroic, the ads get Impending Inevitability. After being kicked, they can't be kicked again for 20 seconds. That makes it even more crucial to not kick Starblast. After all the ads die, Phase 4 starts and Argus comes back with a bang. He literally kills everyone. If any of your raiders did not read up on the fight, this is the moment to troll them by acting like it's their fault. As soon as you're able, you can safely release, avoid the goo monsters, and then go touch the tree to come back to life. Making a return this phase, we have Deadly Scythe for tanks, Tortured Rage raid damage, Soul Bursts, and Soul Bombs. There's no more Avatar tank to save the Soul Bomb players this time, so those people just die. When you die, release and go back to that spirit realm. Again, avoid the Hungering Souls, and while you're down there, pick up Motes of Titanic Power. That will feed Kaskaroth so that he can give the raid his sweet Titan Forging buff. That handy dandy tree is ANR's present, the Gift of the Lifebinder. Those reses are awesome, but they are limited use, and when it runs out of energy, the tree becomes withered. The withered tree can be healed to give it more juice, but it'll get a dot every time someone uses it once it's withered, so you can't just die to whatever. Ember of Rage is these sparkly falling damage stars. This is a good, old-fashioned don't stand in the swirly thing. Re-origination modules are more orbs, but I promise that this is the end of the list. They look like this, and they rapidly spread bad stuff underneath them while pulsing raid damage. Kill those ASAP to avoid getting locked out of the floor. Taking these out is going to largely fall on range since they'll very quickly be in the middle of a death puddle. That's the fight. The only differences between normal and heroic, aside from the numbers, is the duration of the Sky and Sea buffs in Phase 1 and the kick immunity buff on the ads in Phase 3. That's it. That's a shockingly low learning curve to go from normal to heroic. As a quick tip, when you die in Phase 4, you're really dead. Say goodbye to your food buff. If you have the Lightforged Augment rune, keep that on your bar so that you can re-click it after you come back. After you kill Argus for the first time, definitely watch the cinematic. It's a long one, but I promise you that your bonus roll timer won't run out. Once you've seen that, I recommend taking a little personal field trip to Silithus sometime. It's pretty cool. So that is Argus and Antorus the Burning Throne. If this video helped you out, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Check out my channel and subscribe for future raid guides and more useful WoW videos. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye!